Hello. So last we showed off, we didn't have all that much, but I've had a lot of time to improve what I've got. So let's start with the playtest so I can show you all the features that we have. So as you see, um, our pawn isn't really holding anything right now, and he has a base walking animation that uh, before I wanna before I pick up that weapon, I want to show some stuff off. So I actually can possess other pawns like that very easy. This one's also not holding anything. But if I go up to here, if I go up to this and I press E to interact, my character will pick up this gun. And now they're walking around holding the gun. I can aim the gun and it points towards the target. And the gun can also do things. So it can shoot and excuse me. And it can also shoot like grenades. Right now, they're more like rockets right now. And you can see on the right side, it's actually using object pooling to do this. And it's very, very basic object pooling, but I wanted to implement object pooling for a different class. And this is my first time doing object pooling. It's surprisingly easy. All right, so before we can really talk about any of the new systems I made, we have to talk about the observer pattern. And I've got a great example here for you. So let's take an example of health for a player. So we have the player, and they have a current health. This would be a float. And whenever this current health changes, we want to update a UI class. And to even do that, we would have to have some sort of hard reference to the UI. And if you want to do even more stuff, like if you wanted there to be, for instance, like a screen effects, like blood splatter on the screen, or a vignette, or maybe you wanted to play sounds, you need to find references to all those other things, or you could just have the UI do that and reference around to all the different components manually, anyways. But what we're gonna do instead is talk about events. So events are the observer pattern, and what that entails is instead of have inside your player class saying UI update with the health value, we're just gonna say inside of the player, it just has this event called health changed, and then obviously it has its current health. And then whenever our health changes, we just say that this event happened. We invoke the event. That event. And then our UI class over here, it is observing this event. And it might have a whole bunch of stuff. It'll have a function for, it'll be a function for update health bar. And this is actually the thing that's going to be observing it. So it's the function health bar that is bound to this event. So no longer does the player need to have like a hard reference to the UI class and tell it to update whenever the current health changes. Now, whenever the health changes, it just publishes out like this event says, hey, my health changed. And then the UI and any other things that might need to change functionality when the health changes are just observing that event so they know when the health changes. That's the basic backbone of observer pattern. So now that we know more about the observer pattern, I can talk about how my weapon system works. So here we have a weapon prefab, and as you can see, we have this visual component, and then we have these empty objects. These empty objects contain no functionality. They're basically just transforms that I'm using as input to this weapon system. All of the weapon logic is on this parent weapon empty object. So we have this weapon script, and then what we have are these weapon action scripts. And just like the observer pattern, this weapon script has these events that these weapon actions are observing. So, for instance, on primary attack, it's gonna have weapon action raycast dot trigger pulled, and then for this one, it's also gonna say weapon action projectile dot trigger pulled on secondary attack. So how do we even invoke these events at all? Well, inside of our weapon script, so programmatically, all we have to do is get this event and then say dot invoke. Now, I have primary actions and secondary actions. If I were to open up my player controller, or actually it's probably better to say pawn, because the pawns are the actual things doing it. Actually, I believe it's the humanoid pawns specifically. Yes, it's the humanoid pawn, I believe. Inside these input functions, we have a primary action. Yes, here we go. And so basically, it's just going to get the held item. It's going to try to typecast it into a weapon and do a null check right here. And then it's going to do the primary action. And then inside of that weapon, this function is going to shoot off. And it's going to invoke, or this function is going to shoot off, and it's going to invoke the primary attack event. And then inside the editor here, anything we have observing this event is going to fire off. So this weapon action raycast script, what it does is it basically shoots a bullet. So inside of weapon event responders, I have this shoot, or I have this trigger pulled function, which does the shoot functionality. It just calls shoot, and what shoot does is does the stuff that shoot does. It does a raycast. If it hits something, it tries to get a health component on it, and then if it does have a health component, it damages it. Now, health is another really good use for event systems in game programming. On my base pawn prefab, I have this health status script that I wrote, and it has some exposed variables and events, and basically everything you see is what you get. Everything is public and serialized, really, except for some of the inner functionality, like these getters and setters. I have this private setter, so you can only really set the current health variable from within the health status. But whenever you actually change it, whenever you change the current health, it'll check if you died or not, and then it will invoke the health changed event. Yeah, and what all this does is it just nothing's hooked up at the moment right now, but it could be. You could have a death component that is hooked up to the death event, or you could have the UI like events hooked up to this health changed, and it works really well. So if we put this up to like 1 health, it's gonna start with 1 health, and they'll die in 1 hit. Boom, dead. I also damaged myself with my own projectile, so dead. Alright, so for the next feature that I added, I did the weapon holding system, and to explain that I have to talk about inverse kinematics. So in an armature, what you have is you have these articulation points. We'll say this is the shoulder, and then down here is like an elbow, and then over here this would be like the hand, right? And then we have like the hand and all the fingers. So pretty crap arm, but what we do when we animate is we just rotate these these pivot points, right? So if we were to rotate this out, now the bone chain would look something like this. And all the bones underneath it would follow. So the hand that's right here would also rotate around, and now it's over here with all the fingers. And that's okay for some circumstances, but what if you wanted to put this hand bone in a certain position, like holding a weapon? You'd have to rotate around a lot and make tweaks in real time as the weapon's moving, and that is hard, if not impossible, to do. So with inverse kinematics, we've got our arm right here and our pivots. And what we do is we just set the position of this to where we want it to go. So if we have like our weapon grip right here, we just set the position to right here, and we also do the rotation. And then what the engine's going to do for us is it's going to basically auto-calculate the positions of the other bones for us. So all we have to do is move this to wherever we want, and it will automatically update and calculate how the rotation of the bones up the chain acts. And I have a demonstration of this actually. In Blender, here's a Baldur's Gate model that I helped someone rip from the game. And if we, for instance, wanted to like put his hand in his mouth, with normal forward kinematics, we would have to rotate that first, and then this, and I actually got this relatively quickly. And there, his hand's in his mouth. Alternatively, with inverse kinematics, if I check auto IK, I could just move this up to his mouth. And as you see, the elbow automatically follows. So that's inverse kinematics, and the exact same idea applies to like putting your character's hands on a weapon, for instance, to like hold items.